Now on KGW News, Burgerville says this Portland neighborhood is no longer safe, where they're temporarily closing their doors. Plus,
the virus has gotten very mean-spirited.
We ask local doctors why Oregon's seeing just as many COVID cases now as we were in January.
And paper license plates? Why Washington may have to hand out the flimsy replacements, at least for a while. But first,
the truth is, I will always fall short finding words that are good enough to honor my brother.
Thousands come out to help honor a local sheriff's deputy killed in the line of duty.
And good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dan Haggerty.
And I'm Laurel Porter. Colleagues, family, and the community gathered today to remember Clark County Sheriff Sergeant Jeremy Brown.
Brown was shot and killed late last month while on a surveillance mission in Vancouver. Tim Gordon takes us to the memorial.
It started with a procession traveling from Vancouver north. Hundreds of law enforcement and first responders accompanied the hearse carrying Jeremy Brown. The Clark County Sheriff's Sergeant was killed in the line of duty July 23rd. On the overpasses along I-5, people came out to honor him during the 15 miles to Elene Casino. Inside, a full house of nearly 3,000 gathered to pay their respects, including law enforcement from all over the county and the country.
Jeremy was my everything.
They heard from the family Jeremy Brown loved so much, starting with his wife, Jill, who asked that we not show video of her as she spoke.
Jeremy did not just have the heart of a lion. He was a lion. There are very few lions in this world, and walking with one of them is a gift for which we should be eternally grateful.
Brown began his law enforcement career early as an MP in the Marines. Later, he worked as a state corrections officer and at the Clark County Jail before joining the sheriff's office. From deputy to detective, then promoted after his death to sergeant, a promotion Sheriff Chuck Atkins said he was in line for. Atkins admired Brown's priorities.
He loved the sheriff's office, but you really felt his love when you talked to him about his family.
Another of his sheriff's office family talked about Brown's sense of humor and humility.
Jeremy would always thank me for mentoring him, when in fact it was him teaching me how to show grace, mercy, and kindness. There are only a few people in my life that I would call true friends, and he is one of them.
Just like way back in the days of old.
A slideshow featured a lot of happy moments in life for Brown and those around him, mostly family.
Jeremy wasn't just my brother, he was my best friend.
Heartbroken, but remembering a man dedicated to loved ones, including 5 grown children.
I could talk all day long about the things our dad was. To know him was to love him, truly. His sense of humor could not be beat, and he told the best stories. He was adventuresome. He was sincere, dependable, encouraging, forgiving, and thoughtful. He was a kind and loving papa to 7 grandchildren, whom he completely adored.
The bell tolls too soon. Sergeant Jeremy Brown would have turned 47 last Sunday. Tim Gordon, KGW News.
Turning now to Oregon's latest surge in COVID-19 cases. Today, the state reported a level of new cases that we haven't seen since January.
But as Catherine Cook reports, it's the growing number of hospitalizations that worries health officials the most.
On Tuesday, state health officials reported 1,575 new COVID-19 cases in Oregon. That's one of the highest daily case counts since the pandemic began.
It seems to me that this is the fastest rate of rise of cases that we've seen.
Dr. Ann Loeffler is deputy health officer for Multnomah County. She attributes part of the steep rise to the Delta variant. She says it's 2 to 3 times more contagious than the original viral strain and more likely to cause breakthrough cases. That's when vaccinated people get COVID.
Now, there's some data that at least some people who have breakthrough cases have high amounts of virus in their nose. But guess what? If they keep their mask on, and they keep their distance, they will not spread it, even if they don't have symptoms, even if they don't know it's COVID.
It's why state and local health officials stand by their recent recommendation that everyone, vaccinated or not, go back to wearing masks in indoor public spaces. Health officials are most concerned over the increase in COVID-related hospitalizations, the most they've seen in Oregon since last winter. As of Tuesday, the count stood at 379. That includes 119 patients in the ICU.
The problem is that the hospitals are very full. And even if you don't get COVID, you want the hospitals to have space for you if you're in a car accident.
The state is not seeing the same kind of rise in COVID-related deaths. They reported 9 on Tuesday. That's in line with the death rate we've seen since March. However, Dr. Loeffler says people rarely die within the first couple weeks of getting COVID. That means we may not see deaths related to this surge until next month. Bottom line, doctors tell us most COVID patients who end up in the hospital are unvaccinated.
The vaccines are still great.
For that reason, Loeffler hopes holdouts will get the information they need to finally feel comfortable getting the shot.
The good news is the vaccines are still preventing the most severe disease. They're preventing hospitalizations, and that's what we were hoping for.
Catherine Cook, KGW News.
At least 3 major health systems in Oregon are planning to require employees to be vaccinated for COVID, even though an old law stops them from doing so. Peace Health is the latest system to announce a requisite. It's based in Vancouver, but has 16,000 employees and 4 hospitals in Oregon. It joins California-based Kaiser Permanente and OHSU in mandating the shot. So you may be wondering how they're able to do this with that old law in place.
It's a good question. I think that law is certainly a barrier. I think we're looking at this as a public health emergency. We're hoping to have some support from our government officials in sort of being able to implement these standards.
As you can imagine, not everyone's on board with this decision. The Oregon Nurses Association is against it. It believes a mandate will lead to more nurses leaving Oregon's hospitals. Governor Kate Brown told us last week she believes hospitals should have a choice in the matter, but no word on how that will happen.
The pandemic has been tough on local businesses. We know that. But today we learned of a restaurant closing, not because of COVID, but because of the conditions in the neighborhood. The CEO of Burgerville said the area around Southeast 92nd in the Powell store is no longer safe for employees. Mike Benner found at least one nearby business owner who's not surprised to see this happening.
Tuesday afternoon at the Kingpins at Southeast 92nd in Powell. As you can see, it is buzzing with activity.
It's back to pre-pandemic levels from 2019.
Kingpin's co-owner John Tang says that's exciting to see. What he's not thrilled about are the needles and human waste, among other things, that he finds on and near his property. Tang believes it's coming from the nearby homeless camps. He's empathetic, but he's also worried about keeping his business afloat.
We're not getting any support at all from the city. And it's frustrating because it kind of leaves us business owners on our own.
Case in point, the Burgerville restaurant next to Kingpin's is closing temporarily. Management cites deteriorating conditions. They say Burgerville employees have found weapons, drug paraphernalia, and human waste on the property. Burgerville CEO Jill Taylor said in a statement, "While it saddens me to temporarily close this Burgerville, I will always put the safety and security of our employees first." She goes on to say there is a humanitarian crisis happening throughout our region, and we need to come together around solutions.
We have as a community need to help and support those people.
Mark Medina of the Burgerville Workers Union is concerned about what's happening around the fast food restaurant, but he wonders if that is really to blame for the temporary closure.
In the list of top 10 things that workers want to discuss and talk about, this has never been a main concern of anyone.
It is a concern for John Tang of Kingpins. He's hoping for resolution sooner rather than later.
We just need help and need a better, humane way to take care of the homeless. It's inhumane to see the homeless out there in those camps.
You may be wondering about the people who work here. We are told all of the employees at this Burgerville will be offered positions at nearby locations. Reporting in Southeast Portland, I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
Portland is the largest police force in the country to not have body cameras. And now Mayor Ted Wheeler is pushing for the Bureau to get them.
Adding body-worn cameras can benefit all of us by increasing the transparency of police work. We're laying the groundwork now to make this a real option.
The city has been looking into the issue for more than 10 years, but the efforts ended due to politics and a lack of funding. Recently, the Justice Department called on city leaders to start a body camera program as part of a settlement agreement over police reform. Today, Mayor Wheeler directed the Police Bureau to research equipment, get bids, and look for grants that may help pay for the cameras. It could still take months, though, before they're finally available for officers to wear.